Sophie, his 13th birthday. Gift? We've got you. Guitar? Coming tomorrow. Road game today, surprise party tomorrow. Change of plans. Game tomorrow.
No, birthday tomorrow.
Hotel!
Guitar. Reroute.
Birthdays are on birthdays.
Party? Relocate. UPS My Choice makes rerouting packages easy. How we're helping companies solve for the needs of customers like Sophie.
Yeah, and again, before we move into our upcoming game that we're excited about playing, just as we look back Saturday and one, appreciate our victory and being able to win it, pull away at the end comfortably, but in a game that wasn't all that comfortable when you look back on a game like that. Such a great teaching game because there's so many things you can correct, penalties and mistakes and turnovers and things like that. You're looking at a lot of kickers or punters, and so I think in the first game, we're very very happy to be 1-0 and to have seen what was done, played the game that we did. Also, in light of the fact it doesn't take you to look very far to see how many teams lose games like that and how many games were outrageously close, scary in situations where an FBS is playing an FCS and those type of things, or a major's playing a mid-major and those type of things. So, again, always glad to get out of a game with a good, solid victory and didn't get people hurt. So we got our people healthy and ready to go in the second game. That being said, we become the team that has to go into somebody else's stadium and win our big game against a favored opponent or a Big Ten opponent. Wisconsin is just an outstanding football team. We are excited about playing the game because it's our big game. We get to play in front of 80,000 people. We play it in a great venue at Madison and against a great football team and every one of these players. Our players, not many of them were recruited by teams in the Big Ten, and they're thrilled to be playing against someone in the Big Ten. And but they're a fine football team, and coming off a big win to show how good they are, knocking off a top 10 ranked football team in LSU. So we're excited about the game, excited about going up, but we realized the monumental task we have of playing a Wisconsin team that won 10 games last year and probably is a little bit better football team this year. I think people have been saying that for 10 or 15 years. You know, we went from, in my lifetime, in my playing lifetime, 74, college first, it seems like to me the last year, 1972, it was unlimited scholarships in Division I. I remember when Tony Dorsett played for Pitt, Johnny Major signed 96 players. He signed everybody. And he got Hugh Green, he got Ricky Jackson, he got Tony Dorsett. He built the national, and 4 years later they won the national championship in 1976. But around 74 they started cutting back and then cutting back and then cutting back. So once it got to where it is now, 25, I think you began to create parity because everybody gets their share or gets some. So I think you have more parity even than you used to have. And so now that there's about 4 or 5 teams that you probably may never walk into their stadium and have a chance, but there's not a bunch more after that. And so, yes, I think there is more parity. On one hand, that's been going on for 20 years, and two, I've always wanted this in my 23 years as a head coach and growing up, why we can't get our kids ready to play 12 times a year. Why guys don't play they only get 12 games. They work all their life to play college football. But the fact is, and you could talk to my father who did it for all his lifetime, they don't get up the same for every team. Players don't respond the same to every game. And football's a game of emotion. It's a game of emotion that affects coaches and that affects players. And sometimes it costs you a game. Sometimes it just costs you half a game. Sometimes things don't work. Things are fine, but I do believe that football, because it's a team sport with a lot of moving parts, 11 on offense and 11 on defense, you have the most chance for a team that's not mentally ready to play or emotionally ready to play can be upset, and you could see it from FCS beating FCS mid-majors to FBS mid-majors beating majors and all the different levels of football. you see things that you can't believe happen, and it happens on a consistent basis. So all those reasons are, the longer you're in this business, the more you sit there. As a game is over, you say, a win is a win. Thank goodness it's a win. Let's move forward. You read too much into a game. I know the best. I can almost pick every year I've ever coached. Last year, after we got beat 50-something to Oklahoma, we wondered, boy, they're that good? I mean, what's the deal? What kind of year? Well, we had our first 8-win season in school history. We had our first bowl win in school history. But at that moment, you're sitting there wondering if we can compete with anybody. Well, they ended up being in the Final Four teams in the country, and a pretty dynamic football team that year. And it goes back, every year you can kind of look back. So some of those games, some games will be close, some games will not, but there is good parity. Well, I think that's part of playing in FCS and knowing what their strategy probably is going to be, because quite often, and you see that when you see teams that, okay, we're favored, we're going to win this game, so let's do what we men need to do, run it down their throat, and eventually we'll pull away. With all of a sudden you take 8 minutes off the clock, you fumble on the 1-yard line, it's the second quarter, and you haven't scored but 3 points. And so when we see a team that we're probably more talented than, and they're going to overload, play 7 people close to the line of scrimmage, that means they're one-on-one, and we felt like that was where we had a distinct advantage, and that would be the advantage during the game plan. And they were a very well-coached team, and they did a great job of doing that. So we felt like the greatest strength that we had that went against their biggest weakness was one-on-one routes. Lane, JoJo, even Austin Wolf with his speed, and all those guys caught deep balls. The thing that was very impressive is that I think all but once Woody hit those passes. Those are passes that sometimes you hit one, you miss one, you hit one, you hit. He hit almost every deep ball that we threw. And when you don't, if you don't hit them, that defense is they've won. They force you to throw the most difficult pass as fast as you can throw it, or the most difficult pass. And if you overthrow it all the time, they've won. And so we were able to hit that. That was more a strategy for VMI and what they were trying to do to us than the next team may say, you know what, they're going to stop the run, they're going to give us all the short passes because they're going to knock the heck out of us, and who knows, Well, I don't think we had one that was called a sack, but I think he was scrambled or ran or something. But we throw the ball pretty quick. We get rid of the ball, so I think that the offensive line had a first good day. They have plenty of room for improvement. They are going to get tested in a whole new it's going to be a whole new game this week with the people that are going to come after them. And so it'll be a whole new test that's going to be a lot different for both sides of our ball. Because when you play at Wisconsin, you're going to be challenged, first of all, in the trenches. You're going to be challenged physically in the trenches first, whether it be pass rush, blocking, or having to take on blocks. And that's where Wisconsin will give us a whole different look. But offensive line, for the first time, 5 new guys played together. I thought they had a good, solid job in a game. We should be better than the fellows we were playing. But their defense was a little more veteran than our offensive line was, and I thought we did fine. I do not know. It's like advertising. How much does a billboard of advertising actually make people buy something? How much does a motivational speech actually make it? I believe it's very important because of the intent, the leadership on the team, and the way players respond to their teammates and their peers more than they do their coaches. It was spontaneous. It was not somebody. DeAndre, go over there and get the team fired up. Nobody made any kind of gesture. I think those things are almost always positive and good, And so, DeAndre's been a great leader for us. Our team voted for captains. DeAndre was the highest vote getter on our team for captain. JoJo Natson was picked as the first year guy I've ever had voted as captain. I think since I've been here. And then James Turner for our special teams. It was a very good selection. But DeAndre, I don't know. Like I said, I try to look out there to see what momentum gets changed. Was it that one, or was it or Warren Ball making a great run out there in the second half? All of a sudden he runs over a couple people, spins and makes 200 yards, and all of a sudden everybody got excited. Those kind of things are the things you look for. I mean, if I could package momentum and sell it, I could make $1 million. Just like you watched that Florida State Ole Miss game last night. It was like 2 different games. Momentum was one way. All of a sudden, momentum was another way, and Once it jumps on your back, you can't change it. But DeAndre Scott, that's an attempt to really be a leader, and I felt like always in most seasons I've ever coached, lack of injuries to key players and leadership on the field. You know, the two areas that will make a difference in your football team. Atrocious. Although I saw last night a team get over 11 in the first half, and they about got beat because of it too. We gave up we gave 2 long drives that both of them would have been over at normal time. We gave up a 99 and 91-yard drive that would have ended. One was a roughing the kicker on a field goal, and about 3 penalties on each drive. Offensively, in the second half, we had 3 penalties on one drive as well. Those are just a lack of us doing a good job. I think every one of them is correctable. It's not like some of them are hustle penalties where you just hustle and you hit somebody a little bit late by playing. It was either hands to the face, jumping off sides, holding by 2 tackles at the point of attack where people see tackles tight end twice at the point of attack. A guy that's not played tight end a lot or H-back got a couple. They have to all be correct. Those were all a lineman downfield on a play that he should know he'd not be downfield. We got called for that. So it was they were all very correctable, but that they were more than enough to get us beat in a game that would have been a little closer match. It would have been clearly enough. So all that without that, those have to be corrected. Those have to be corrected, and so that was when I talked about it's great to win a game going away, but also have enough teaching moments that you can teach, because that was a great teaching. That's a great teaching tool, that first game. Man, we cannot beat anybody with a lot of penalties. I mean, we're all elated that Warren's with us, that he's been the leader that he has been. He almost got voted captain. That's how close it was for him. I think JoJo Natson had been here the entire year, and JoJo probably would have been Warren. They were like several close just because they're both 1-year guys. One's a half year, been here a half year. But Warren, all that being said, we're thrilled that he came out in that first game and had the kind of big plays. He had a 4th and 1. He popped for about 30 yards down to the 5-yard line. Gave us that goal, the score that kind of took us over the top, I believe, right there. But we're very, very pleased because he brings some power, punch, and a little bit of speed with him too. And that's something that we have not had, all those combinations, that he carries some good speed. So I think it's a perfect. We really were looking for a senior to come after losing Connor Hunley and Darnell Alexander last year, 2 seniors. Van Edwards is a fine running back. We felt like we needed somebody that had been in a lot of practices. You know, Warren Ball, I imagine if he hadn't been in a lot of games, he's been in a lot of scrimmages. Those guys that are tough like him don't get to sit out. They don't get to sit out in the spring. They got to practice every day. And I imagine he's been in a lot of scrimmages while those first-round draft picks were resting up on the sideline. I used to be the leading rusher every spring ball when I was in college because all the good backs were taking it out. He's a great back, but he was at a school where most of the great backs there are first-round draft picks. But we are elated with his attitude, his leadership, and what he did for us the first game. And we expect big things out of him. Well, I don't know. I mean, and knock on wood, you just probably jinxed us now, you know. Well, up until this year, we always played them close. In Oklahoma, we lasted about a half. You know, when they got after us pretty good in the second half after they popped some big plays. You know what? I don't know. I think our players have just. I think you've got some coaches that have coached in a lot of games where we're not in awe. And so I think the players sometimes feed off their coaches. And we've all lost and won in those venues. We haven't won all the time, but we've been in those venues a lot. And so I think the players feed off that a little bit, in that they don't act in awe when they go there. And they play real hard. Each game has to be taken on its own merit, and each game has to be won or lost or taken. You know, it has to be judged on its own. And that's the way this one will. But I told our players today, I said, if you think it's unusual for a MAC school to beat a good Big Ten school, it's going to happen every year. It's about time it ought to happen to us. I mean, it's not just the least. I mean, most everybody, every now and then they'll get somebody, Penn State or Iowa. I think we've seen several of those happen since I've been here, and Illinois or Northwestern Saturday, you know, was one. And but we've seen it to other teams. So I don't think we want to treat this as a David and Goliath game. It may be a David and Goliath, but we don't. There's no reason the Mid-American Conference has to treat that as a once in a. I know when I was at Samford and we were a 1AA team, and we played Auburn, and it was a definite David and Goliath speech. I think let's go out there and play our best football and do the best we can do. And we're part of a conference that plays Big Ten schools, and we play them well. And let's go out there and do our part, and go out there and prepare for a game, do our best. Now Wisconsin's a very good team. They're not a team that once in a while goes to a bowl or barely wins 7 or 8. They're a team that won 10 last year, and they've been pretty daggum good over the years. And they just knocked off one of the best teams in the country in LSU in a physical game against a team that chose to be very physical against them. And they came out and slugfest with them and won. So anyway, I think our players will be excited. I don't know like I say, we're going in there to win the football game, play our best, but we know we've got incredible odds going into Camp Randall Stadium and playing an outstanding, probably top 10 team or close to a top 10 team at their place. And so we just have to go in there and try to do our best. And if they're hot, we could be in for a daggum. They have the ability to go out there and get after you pretty good if you're not ready to play. Well, that linebackers, they picked on our young people. I sit there and think, God, we got 4 veteran corners, and we've got veterans, but they didn't. They were able to crisscross, flatten guys out, pick linebackers off, linebackers crisscross, and all new guys, all young guys. And they did a good job. VMI did a very good job of knowing where we were playing people and young people and putting stress on them. And, boy, it picked up a ton of yardage, a ton of gains and completions without the cornerbacks or safeties making mistakes out there. And so as we look back at it, we could have probably played a little more cover 2 and put corners hard, little different things and protected our linebackers. But you keep thinking, okay, they made that mistake, and then all of a sudden you'd have your second team guy and he'd make the same mistake and they'd catch that one. And so it was a tough but probably good first game for our guys as they got put under fire in a game where we were probably a better football team and won because we were a better talented football team, not because we necessarily played better than the other team. Well, I think Tom O'Leary. I want him to kick one more time because he during preseason he's been the best kicker over. Stat him is close, but he's a scholarship guy. And after he missed, the first one was kicked low. That wasn't it wasn't penetration. He kicked it low, and then he missed the second one. And then I said, I ain't taking it. I'm gonna put him in there because if we're gonna get him to play, he's got to go ahead and make it. And he made the next ones, and he kicked off great. And it's almost like he got through whatever it is that makes you nervous like that. He got through it, so he'll be our kicker. But we have others that are right there. He's got to consistently show that's what he can do. We went through this with Robert Stein and what are you going to be our kicker or not? And he had more good days than not. Punting, Gasser's our guy, but we have some others that we're looking at too. So, but I think we'll be with one right now until we see that the other guy gets an opportunity. I think we came into the first game and we knew we had to look at 2 or 3 kickers and 2 or 3 punters and just make our mind up. And what's scary is I told Jeff, I said, I didn't realize we'd be 2 points ahead at the time. We're looking at 3 different guys because I'm nervous as heck. But it's what you have to do, And but I think that's where we are right now. And but I think we're still trying to make sure those are our guys. Gingrich is our backup kicker. He's not the punter. The punter is how do you say his? No, Fritchen and Fonseca. Our Fitchens, one's more of a kicker, one's more of a punter, but we have some competition going there. We intended for that to happen because we lost our 2 punter and kickers. We wanted to create some competition, but they kick so even in the preseason. Once you name one, the other guy doesn't see the action. It's like quarterbacks and kickers. Once you name a starter, the backup doesn't get in unless the game's over, and quite often. And so that's kind of the way that is, and we'll see where that goes. It'll be a lot more pressure, I think, with 80,000 people. We'll see if a guy's got ice in his veins. When you got 80,000 people, and we'll see if there's anything going through their head.